Hey guys, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world today. My name is Alex Tapia with Aviation Retirement Strategies. Thanks for tuning in. If you are tuning in and if you received the link via email for this video, it's because I specifically sent it to you because I want to talk to you about specifically your Boeing holding that you have in your portfolio because of all the news that's been going on and everything that's happened to them, which is not necessarily exactly positive here in the last few weeks. But I want to go beyond the news stories. I'm not here to report a news story about Boeing. I'm here to specifically talk about Boeing as an individual stock holding that we hold in your portfolios, that I hold, and also in my personal portfolios, which, along with obviously hundreds of thousands of other people as well, probably millions. And I want to talk more about as an individual stock, what are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with the news? And what are we going to do with everything that's been happening? What do we see in the future? And more importantly, as a final action, are we going to sell Boeing? Are we going to hold on to it? Or maybe are we going to potentially even buy some more of it? So I want to analyze that Boeing for you as an individual stock. So in order to do that, we have to go back into history and kind of see where it's been, what's happened to it in the last few years, where it is at today, and what potentially could happen to them in the future as a company. So let's go ahead and get started. So now, for a lot of you, if you remember back late last year, we bought Boeing for you inside of your portfolio. There was a very specific reason why. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up a chart for Boeing so that we can look at the history of it and look at the price history of the individual stock from Boeing. And I'm just going to go ahead and pull up a Yahoo Finance page, just a basic page, nothing fancy. And so we're going to pull up an advanced chart, and we're going to see, like, kind of play around with the timelines here to see what Boeing's been doing over time. And let me go ahead and get that going in here. I'm sure that you can see that. And we are basically, what I have up here for you is a timeline dating all the way back into the 1960s. Now, of course, that's a very long time. What happened back then is pretty much irrelevant to today. But as a whole, the stock has been doing pretty well since the mid 1970s. If you own stock Boeing at the mid 1970s, you've enjoyed a pretty good run in terms of holding that kind of a stock. Of course, it also has dividends, and Boeing is literally a global conglomerate. It's an economy in its own, and the more it has grown, and it's not just airplanes that it builds. As they build military airplanes, they're also into space, and they're all into all kinds of things today. But as a whole, it's a pretty good stock to hold for the long term. But now let's go back to more our reality. Unless I'm going to go back to a 5-year time frame, maybe 6 years here, maybe 5 years may not be enough. But here's his 6 year. Basically, oops, let me go back here. Mouse is a little bit sensitive here, but let's look at Boeing starting maybe from maybe 7 years ago. Boeing has had a pretty good run, and when Boeing is operating and basically firing on all cylinders, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, building good aircraft, good solid engineering, they're literally the leader of the aerospace industry, and they're a phenomenal company. It was run well. Unfortunately, there came a point in time, not probably maybe 5-6 years ago or so, where they started running a company more based on numbers and not exactly quality. For those of you that are familiar with Boeing, and I know that most of you are, they put out good airplanes, but they're running a company with accountants, not necessarily airplane makers. And that started happening basically when Boeing is operating at its finest. This is basically the top of the range with the Boeing. This is the highest price history they've ever had. Their stock was trading at $440 a share, and that's when basically things started to go down from there. So it's important that from that point, basically when Boeing is operating at its finest, from that point, what has happened since, and where are we potentially going to be going? So if you look at the history, and I wrote down some notes over here. So the problems with Boeing here lately started with the accidents with the MCAS system. If you remember, Ethiopian Airlines and Lion Air, they both put airplanes into the ground because the system was basically pushing the nose over, and the pilots were not trained to basically overcome it. Is that a pilot thing? Maybe, but it turned out to be actual design flaw that Boeing put in there, and they did it in the wrong way. So if you look at the stock price, the Lion Air accident happened on October 29th of 2018, which is basically about right there, October 29th. So basically, of course, anytime there's a crash, the Boeing, an airline stock is going to go down. And basically, when it comes over here, that's when the stock started going down. But nobody at the time really knew what happened at the time. Was it pilot error? Was it anything about Boeing? The investigations hadn't been done yet. So the stock did not really suffer that much. Of course, it suffered a little bit, but not a significant amount, where certainly not where it's at today. And then it looked like things were getting a little bit better. And then that's basically when Boeing hit its highest price target that it has ever hit. And then if you look at the timeline here, March 10th of 2019, which is about right here, exactly at the top, this is when the second crash happened from Ethiopian Airlines on March 10th, 2019. And that's when the stock has started going down. And it really has never recovered from that. Now, obviously, the first grounding of the airplane happened by Ethiopian Airlines on the same date, March 10th of 2019. And then the first order to ground the 737 airplanes was done on March 11th of 2019 by China, which is basically roughly the same time frame. And then also on March 13, 2019, that is also when the FAA grounded the airplane. Now, the FAA did not quite ground the airplane for as long as China did. The FAA grounded the airplane all the way through November 20th of 2019, November 18th of 2020, and China kept these airplanes grounded all the way through January 13th of last year, which is literally basically like a year ago. So right now it's January 26th, and they have ungrounded the airplanes on January 13th of 2023. But basically during all that time, that's when they figured out that it was a design problem by Boeing. That's when you see this big drop right over here. And ever since then, it's been plagued by problems, obviously deliveries, and it's been causing a mess. And the one advantage that Boeing has, and Airbus has this as well, is that these airline companies, they have to have them. You cannot do without Boeing because they provide airplanes, and you have to have airplanes to fly. You can't just go shopping somewhere else and buy different kinds of airplanes. You either go to Airbus or you go to Boeing, and there's really no other option. And if you want an airplane today, and if you decide to go do away with Boeing, Airbus simply can't keep up with the pace, and you're going to have to wait years and years before you can start adding to your fleet, because one aerospace company simply cannot keep up with the demand of the global aviation industry. What's the matter about getting their act together? And unfortunately, they were plagued by a lot of other problems. It was definitely a design issue. The people running the company, especially some of the people higher up, I think the chief pilot got arrested and put in jail for fraud because he pencil whipped some logbooks or whatever he did. I don't exactly remember what it was, but it's been plagued by problems ever since. It's been going on all the way up through basically the end. Part of the story is we were all waiting for China to go ahead and clear Boeing to start flying. And basically they did that right here, which is when finally it seemed like Boeing was getting their act together. Now, Calhoun, which is the Boeing CEO, started getting his act together, trying to run a quality aerospace company. And to us, it really seemed like it was doing that. He was doing a great job. Although they were having problems because of the groundings and all the debt, I think it cost them about $60 billion after the lawsuits and the recertification of the aircraft and all those kinds of things. They had a lot of problems, but they were getting themselves out of these problems. It started to look like Boeing was again starting to become Boeing again, and to be a good quality company delivering quality airplanes. And you can see from the stock, and this is basically around the time that China, about right here is when China released the airplane to go flying, about right there. And from there, the stock started. It already seemed like obviously it was they were going to clear the airplane to fly. So the stock always pre-anticipate things that are going to happen. And as you can see from here, and the stock started going up. Not exactly sure exactly what happened here, but when Boeing started reporting some good numbers in the last quarter, about right here, that is when you saw us buying Boeing inside of your portfolio. And because we wanted to be part of the recovery, because we know where Boeing, when it's at its best, it's operating right here in the $400 something range. We think the stock should be somewhere around 350 or so, but we bought the stock about right here because we wanted to ride the wave up. Everything was looking great. We got some pretty good returns up until the beginning of January. And ever since then, of course, Alaska Airlines on January 5th, for the incident happened with the plug tab door blew out. and they obviously have grounded the airplane. They had to do a fix and all those kinds of things. So the main question was this a design problem like the MCAS system back with Lion Air and Ethiopian Airlines, or was this a manufacturing problem? Because it's a significant difference in how we would look at the stock. Because if there was an actual design problem, we would have sold that stock pretty much immediately when we found out. But if it's a manufacturing problem, that's a fairly easy fix because it's just a matter of getting the manufacturer to get their act together, fix whatever is wrong, and the airplane's back flying again because it does not have a fundamental design flaw. A significant difference in the way you have to look at the stock, whether it's manufacturing or if it's a design problem. Because it was a manufacturing problem, we feel pretty comfortable still holding on to it. If you notice, we have not done anything with the stock up to today because when we bought it, most of you, 99% of you, depending on the timing, you're still in the green with Boeing as a holding because of when we bought it, because we had a nice little run in the short term. So we're still in the green on that stock. And so, which is the reason why we haven't sold this, because we think that they're going to fix this problem up pretty quickly. The FAA has already cleared some of these airplanes to go flying. They're getting their act together. It's just a matter of, do we believe in the future going forward, is this something worth holding on to? Or should we sell it? Or should we maybe even buy some more of it, like I said earlier? For us, the decision is really pretty simple. For us right now, we're going to be holding it because I want to see what's going to be going on with the clearing up all of the airplanes going back in. We want to see an exact fix, and we want the FAA to say, hey, these airplanes are good to go, because we need obviously these orders to continue coming. Now, even if, let's say, a Scott Kirby at United Airlines, even if we know that he's not happy with Boeing. It's cost a lot of frustration for United Airlines, and I'm just picking United as an example because there's others out there. Even if he wanted to, let's say, cancel all the orders for Boeing and start going to Airbus, it's simply not possible for them because there's simply no other airplanes. The global demand on aviation, the global demand on aircraft is so high, there's simply no other aircraft available for an airline like United Airlines to buy. So they are stuck with having to keep these Boeing products. And right now it may be frustrating for them, but if Boeing actually gets their act together, it's going to be back to a good relationship, and Boeing's going to continue to be delivering these airplanes. Companies like United, Emirates, if they wanted to replace orders to Airbus, if they wanted to, they simply can. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place because there's no inventory. They have to stick with the deliveries that they committed to from Boeing. So we think that's a good thing for the stock. Eventually, the company just needs to get their act together, and we think that they will, because again, this is a manufacturing issue. It's not a design problem, and they just made a mistake. Unfortunately, it's a very crucial mistake. I'm very fortunate that they did not kill anyone. Obviously, that would have been absolutely dramatic and not very good for the company. But so far, things are looking good. The stock seems to be stabilizing a little bit. Yesterday had a kind of a bad day. It was down about 5 to 6%. Today is up. What's it right there? It's about 1.65% as we speak. But we're going to wait and see what happens. Right now, for most of you, I think, except for one account, based on the timing, you're actually still in the green on the stock. We're going to hold on to it for now, but we're watching it very closely and monitoring this thing very closely. And we're going to make sure that if something negative happens, we will be able to act on it immediately. Of course, when we do, you will be the first one that's going to be notified. But for now, just to let you know, we're going to be holding on to the stock. We have no intention of selling it. We also no intention of buying any more for now until we know more. We have more information. So if you have any questions about your portfolio, if you want to discuss these holdings with us, please feel free to give me a call. I'm always available. But I hope you found this informative and at least give you an insight into what we're thinking and why we haven't done anything so far with the stock since the news broke. But feel free to give us a call and reach out anytime. We'd love to talk to you and catch up anyway. Anyway, have a great weekend, and we appreciate your time. And I hope this was informative for you. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.